So I'm Zuby, independent. I'm an independent rapper, author, host of the Real Talk with Zuby podcast, public speaker, and coach. Originally born in the UK, grew up in Saudi Arabia, family background originally from Nigeria. Also went to an American/international school for several years. So if my accent is confusing you, as it does with everybody, then that is why. But yeah, lots of people know me for lots of different things.
Although I'm annoyed you didn't put in the best thing there, of course, which is being the world record holder of...
remaining, British women's record holder in the deadlift and bench press, actually, as well. Yeah. Set those records just over 3 years ago now. And we still live in this continuation of clown world. So they still stand. And
speaking of that continuation of clown world, that's exactly the topic of today for Posie Parker stumping Piers Morgan. And as a member of the transgender community, or at least briefly, you'll be very interested, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So to start off, of course, I have to start with the shill. So we'll start with the shill being the book club Abigail Shrier's Irreversible Damage that Harry did, which I'm getting a lot of work out of because it is just obviously relevant. So this is the obsession with trying to convert kids and then the irreversible damage these people cause. But I suppose we should move to the adults. So I've not been that impressed, I'll be honest, with the Piers Morgan setup on his show. Just not really found it that interesting personally. And if we go forward, I just wanted to mention some of the weird stuff I found. So if you click on this image here, the first one, you can see, I remember this was his opening show. And it's a lot of Piers Morgans there that made me laugh, at least. If you go to the next one, the funniest one is just he has a screen showing the thing on the roof as well. So for the opening show, of course, they just had his logo, so it was just Piers Morgan uncensored on the roof as well as everywhere else, which was strange to say the least from my perspective. If we go forward, we can also see that there are some memes that did come out of this, or at least some Alan Partridge level memes that I found funny. I don't know if we can play the first one just in the...
You heard the man, Fun Police, get stuffed.
I'm sorry. But then if we go to the next one as well, there are some disappointing news for him, which is just that the viewing figures apparently aren't doing very good. So this is Lawrence Fox making fun of it, of course, because I don't think Lawrence is very, very happy with Piers. And if we go to the next one as well, there's also just the weird notion that all the advertising is about Piers Morgan. But I feel like I've said the word Piers already 20 times. But I suppose that's the point. But anyway, we shall get into the debate between Posie Parker and Piers himself. So there was an event in Manchester. I presume you saw it.
I actually didn't know.
Okay, so Posie Parker went to go give a speech in which she was going to say that women exist.
Do they?
Yeah, that was about it.
What is a woman, though?
So a bunch of black bloc petty terrorists.
Oh, yes, I did see this. Yeah, okay, yeah, I saw some videos floating around Twitter, but I didn't know exactly what the event was, and I didn't know it was in Manchester.
But that's the thing; it was so surface level. It's literally just Posie Parker coming up to talk about the fact that women exist, they have rights, and that was enough, of course, in the clown world in which we exist.
Yeah, this whole thing is so misogynistic; it's amazing.
Dude, it was brilliant.
I mean, you've literally got men clad out in black outfits, phically pushing around and I saw one a couple years ago. Do you remember that one where the guy I think it was something slightly different, but where the guy actually kicked a woman, and you've got this, and then of course you have all this weird online activism and people calling these women really, really nasty things and slurs and whatever. And I can't help but notice it's primarily dudes, it's primarily men who are doing this. It's primarily left-wing men who are reveling in this weird misogyny that's allowing them to essentially defend men
against women's rights.
Against women's rights, and demonize and make really misogynistic attacks and comments on women under the banner of, and the men doing this, of course, will be the type of men who call themselves feminists. And the whole thing is just so backwards and insane and hypocritical that it's hard to believe that this is the real world. It's very odd.
This is why you get this strange narrative, I would say, at least from the... well, they're not feminists, don't call themselves feminists, but the women's rights advocates like Posie, for example, who see the whole transgender movement as men's rights advocacy.
It is.
But the MRAs of old are what? No.
It's all convoluted. It's
we have nothing to do with that.
The whole thing is weird, and it's deranging because we live in this weird time where you're meant to believe simultaneously. It's like 1984. You're supposed to simultaneously believe multiple conflicting and mutually exclusive views. So at the same time, you're supposed to believe that men and women are completely the same and absolutely equal in every sense, men and women are just the same. They don't even have different preferences or interests or whatever. Men and women are the same. But you're also supposed to believe that we're very different. And of course, there's this thing called the patriarchy, and women are essentially oppressed. There's the wage gap and so on. So you also have to recognize this, but also they're completely interchangeable. And men and women are actually social constructs which cannot be defined. You're a woman if you say you're a woman. You're a man if you say you're a man. And so you're supposed to simultaneously believe all three of these things. Men and women are the same. They're completely different, and neither really exists, and they're just social constructs, and you can switch from one to the other. And this is why you end up in these weird situations.
But it's all obviously mad. I mean, this is why before, and I was asking you a lot about Saudi Arabia, you growing up there, because like it's weird enough living here all your life and realizing like something's gone deeply wrong.
Yeah.
But to come from a society where in this regard, sex still exists and works and it's fine, even though, God stinks, but whatever. And then looking back on the UK and United States and just thinking, what the
It's really weird, man. I mean, the past 10 years in particular have been very weird because, I mean, we were having this discussion before. I mean, none of us are, we're not old people talking about, back in my day, many, many decades ago or something. Literally
we need
8, 10, 12, 15 years ago.
We need to return to a traditional 2010 society.
Yeah, like we're just normal people from 2010, right? Like I haven't drastically changed my views on any of this stuff. Like my entire life growing up, and now it's always been yes. There are two sexes. Sex and gender are basically interchangeable terms. You have men, you have women, you have boys, you have girls. We're similar in many ways as human beings, but we are also different, and that difference is important.
You feel like you're talking to a baby, don't you?
Yeah, and the thing is, babies even understand this. Yeah. Like a baby who cannot even speak can tell the difference between a man and a woman.
But speaking of the fact that this conversation is just insane on the face of it, we shall get into the interview itself, which is also just insane. So this is the first one here. We have one of the ninjas turn up named Jane. Yeah, it is what you think it is. And we'll play the first clip of Jane's version of debate. Let's play that.
Imagery of the suffragette movement, a movement for women's liberation, and rebranding it as this hateful movement against trans people. And we don't stand for that. And the majority of women, the majority of feminists don't stand for it.
All right, let me put my cards on the table. I've always supported trans rights to fairness and equality, and I mean that sincerely. I want everyone...
That bullshit, bro.
Well, you can say bullshit, bro, and that's fine. You're entitled to. It's an uncensored show, and you've just proven it. But let me just say to you, I always
wasn't your profile picture.
Well,
wasn't your profile picture?
I listened to. Okay. There's no point swearing. I apologise to our viewers for your bad language. This is a chance for you to present yourself in a way where we can have a proper debate. If you've got no interest in doing that, that's fine. But I'm just going to say to you that I've always supported trans rights to fairness and equality. My issue with the way this trans debate is going is in issues like sport, for example, where I think is, what is your problem with my position?
I don't really know. I'm going to leave the interview now. I kind of only came on here because I thought it would be kind of funny. But I want to say you're a and you're a fan.
So there you are. That's the level of debate.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I cut it there just because he went on to talk about, of course, the obvious things, which is, bathrooms, sport, goes on. And they had nothing. They're just not interested.
See, one of the biggest problems in the modern Western world is you've allowed people like this weirdo on the right to set the rules.
Yeah.
Right? So that's someone who should just be laughed at and mocked. Like nothing that person is saying with their complete level of immaturity and stupidity and foolishness and just being so disingenuous, people like that shouldn't be taken seriously. Like yes, they have a right to voice their insane views, but they should be laughed at for the insane views that they are. But instead, people are like, oh, wait, okay, let's set policy around that. Let's set all the rules around what these fringe weirdos are saying. And they've done this on every single subject. Instead of laughing these people out the room,
but that's the thing.
It's like, yeah, let's use this.
It is easy to say those people should be out selling pencils from a cup. And yes. Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, they end up as MPs. I mean, like we have, at least 100 odd MPs who believe in this crap. Just in the UK,
nobody believes it. They're cowards. That's all it is.
I find that hard to believe.
It's cowards. It's pure cowardice. This whole thing is based on cowardice. That's all it is.
Even the activists.
They're all cowards. If you are an absolute coward, do you know the best thing to do is to actually pretend to adopt the position and accuse other people because then you feel indemnified. This whole thing is based on cowardice. There's nobody out there who believes that biologically you can actually magically change from one sex to the other. That is not a thing. A man can't give birth. No man has ever menstruated. No man has ever given birth. It's not a thing, not just within the human species, within the entire animal kingdom. We are sexually dimorphic mammals. Every single person listening to this, every single person here on this planet was birthed by a woman. Right?
I still love, because we said earlier, you were saying sometimes I tweet things and think, why the hell am I? And I'm getting that.
Yeah, dude, we literally, I mean, and it's so misogynistic. Like, I'm not a fan of feminism. But like, not that I even know what feminism means right now.
No, it doesn't mean
because
anything.
if you can't even define what a woman is, how are you talking about women's rights or male and female equality or whatever? Like, if we can't even determine what these words mean. But it's so incredibly misogynistic. I mean, because all of this stuff, it always targets women. All of the fallout of all of this trans nonsense.
They can't target men because they'll lose.
Yeah, well, it always affects women. If you're talking about the sports, are there male athletes who are worried that females are going to transition?
No, because they'll lose.
They'll get smashed. Like there's not even a chance. So it all affects women. Are men worried about females entering their prisons or entering their private spaces and their changing rooms? No, it's not. It's the
because
women.
we're still stronger.
Of course.
I mean, that's the fundamental thing.
Yeah, exactly. If this thing even made any sense, then all of these issues would be two ways. Men would also be concerned about the fact that, oh, well, there's going to be an unfair advantage here or there, but men are not worried. It only impacts 50% of the population who are female. I mean, even the language, right? Instead of calling people mothers, calling them birthing people or birthing bodies, person who gives birth, vagina owners, menstruators, all of this, they're called women. The most traditionally misogynistic dude in the world will still call women women. Like you won't start
Can't still use the
them.
word, yeah. But anyway, I was just going to mention that, like you're saying, the person, the insane person is really the problem here. To be honest, I find Piers there more of the problem because his response was to say to the person, "Oh look, I believe in trans rights to fairness and equality," and I'm always left with the question: a trans right to what? Yeah, exactly. And
he's trying to protect himself. Because these people are so vicious that if you just call it like it is, you get called a trans. They're going to call you a transphobe regardless.
And that's exactly leads us to the next clip.
Yeah, so you can't just be trying to couch this thing and use all these caveats or whatever. Like it's a given. If you support human rights and equality on a basic level, that encompasses everything. It encompasses everything, right? Mm-hmm. So when people even say I support trans rights, it's like, what does that even mean?
Well, that's the thing. There are two different rights here, and they are in conflict. Yeah. And we're going to see, you mentioned just call yourself transphobic anyway. We'll see Posie Parker do exactly that because she just does not care. Piers is like, are you transphobic? Thinking, haha, we'll laugh at it. And she goes, nah, sure, why not? So let's play.
Okay.
Talk to you about this issue because you were on the receiving end as a group there. You were trying to speak at Emmeline Pankhurst's statue. I've just had a pretty, unsavoury exchange with one of those protesters who probably thinks that they've had their little moment with me and they'll get their little viral moment. I actually think it's indicative of actually how awful their behaviour has been throughout this episode and the way they've dealt with it afterwards. But let me ask you, you're very strong about supporting women's rights to the point where many say that you are transphobic. Are you transphobic?
Well, I think in 2022, transphobic really just means I don't think women have penises. And so, yeah, I absolutely am.
Tell them, Posie.
Chad, yes. Not going to waste my time.
Well, don't take the bait.
No, and she's absolutely right. It's the definition. And the definition there is, okay, you don't believe men have penises. Well, yes.
The definition is you acknowledge reality.
Absolutely. And Piers doesn't seem to take that very well. Okay. So let's play the next clip.
So you're proud of being transphobic?
Yeah, I'm proud of standing up for women's rights and making the word woman completely exclusive to just women, adult human females, 100%.
Right, you see, but here's my problem with that, because whilst I have a problem with the last guest who chose to be abusive and unpleasant and wasn't listening to a word I said, I've always supported trans rights to fairness and equality. I don't see a need to say I'm transphobic towards them or to alienate them in any way at all. And I have a problem when you proudly boast of being transphobic. I can see why, on the other side of this argument, that kind of rhetoric would be very unhelpful to people who are trans?
Right. Well, I guess we have a little bit of an issue with definitions, but when it comes to words like transphobia, it's simply used to silence women like myself who are trying to protect women's spaces, language and rights. And so if I have to wear that label in order to speak the truth, then I'm happy to do it. There is nothing that can stop me from speaking about what harms and danger there is for women when we try and dilute what the word woman means and we allow that language to be used for men.
I mean, just very simply.
Straight up.
Yep.
She's telling the truth. That's all.
But I love how she doesn't waste her time at all. Like, she's very much just like, I'm not even going
No.
to sit there and be like, yeah, trans rights, fairness and equality. Okay, so women's rights, in this instance, are women's right to what? Okay, well, to have a sex-segregated space. Very simple. That's my right. And you can have it for men too, of course.
I think, before even getting into the weeds, I think the most basic right is to be recognized as what you are. Right? A right to the word woman. Right? Like, that's before anything else. I think I don't want to put any words in Kelly J. Keen's mouth there, but that's like the fundamental thing, right? You are like half of the world, half of the adult population are women, adult human females, and you have the right to be recognized by what you literally are and not have men, regardless of how they feel or what hormones they want to take or how they want to dress or whatever, to make a claim that they are what you are. I mean, that's offensive. Well, that's like gender blackface, basically. My
feelings don't care about your facts, though. So what can I do about it? I mean, that is literally the inverse they're running.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I understand. I do think. I think Piers is trying to kind of dance this line between not getting stuck with the transphobic label, but also somewhat stand up for reality. And you can't really do that dance because you cannot appease vipers and these activist types. And this is not saying trans people in general, because a lot of trans people in general do not like these activist types who are actually just making things worse for them. Most people, let's be real, most people don't actually know a transgender person. Most people don't know anyone who's trans, right? Like, this is not some huge section of the population. But what people end up seeing is this. They see the activists. They see the noisy people who are screaming all this stuff. And I think, if anything, they're doing a massive disservice to people who are trans and who just want to be left alone, who don't want to be, like, treated badly.
Well, they're
who
not
don't
real
want to
trans, are they?
Yeah, well...
At least according to the activists.
According to the activists, yeah. But these are the activists who don't think people like myself are actually black because, we're not left-wing and we don't play the victim card and we don't align to all of their views. I've had white lefties have the audacity to tell me that I'm not really black, right? Or to call me a white supremacist and stuff like that, right? Like, what kind of clown world are you living in where you have the freaking audacity to do that?
But this is why I have a problem with Piers here in this regard, because there's a reason I brought up his viewing figures, not just to be mean or anything, but there have been a significant, say, backlash from, let's say, right-leaning people who watch stuff and engage with things and make things against him and his show. And it's not just because of his COVID switch and whatnot, but because of still stuff like this, where you can see he's definitely just confused or doesn't really understand that he's got to stop playing the game. He's got to stop playing the game. Because
I don't think he's confused, man. I just think he lacks the moral courage because
he's still in London and therefore
to look. No one wants to get stuck with a label, and this is how the woke side of the left side of the aisle in many countries has gained so much social power. It's through labeling, being able to call you racist, call you misogynistic, call you a transphobe, call you whatever type of bigot, flavor of the day, to stick anyone who goes against them with that label. It's their only argument. The only argument, literally, the only argument, the only argument about why males should be allowed to compete with females in sport is, if you don't like it, you're transphobic.
Yeah,
that is the only argument. There's no coherent argument. It's just, oh, well, you're a transphobe. You're a transphobe, and no one wants to be called that. So then most people start playing defense. What I love about what Posie does is she doesn't play defense. She doesn't take that bait. She's like, all right, you can call me that. Like, now let's have the conversation.
But that's why I'm
and
saying.
then they have nothing left.
Piers just isn't either standing up or isn't getting it.
He knows the truth, man.
Yeah,
He has to.
But there's the thing. Like, the truth is the fact that, well, women's right to what? Well, segregated space. Okay, so a trans right to what? To violate that space. You don't have a right to violate someone else's rights. It's very simple. So if you believe in the first right, you can't believe the next one. So when he says, I'm up for trans rights of fairness and equality,
it doesn't mean anything, man.
Nothing at all.
Everybody is. It's like if I say I'm up for, I support the rights of any demographic of people. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, if you support
trans right to violate your space.
Yeah, if you support human rights in general and you support equality, then whether you're going down a so-called gender identity line or a sex line or a race line or an ethnicity line or a religious line or what, it doesn't matter. You don't need to go into any more detail. It's like, look, I believe all human beings, all adult human beings for sure should have the same right, should be treated fairly under the law, should not be discriminated against, should not be physically hurt or threatened or anything like that. They should have a right to dignity. Exactly, right? So I just live that. That's all it is. Like, I don't need to, oh, it's June, let me go throw a rainbow flag in my bio. Oh, something just happened, let me put the hashtag BLM, let me put hashtag I support women, hashtag. It's like, dude, like, I support people. If you are a human being, then I support your rights, period, right? Like, it doesn't mean I need to jettison reality. It doesn't mean
if you're going to support their rights and their
rights, they want you to throw away reality, and I'm not going to throw away reality, right? Like, if someone is like, I know way more. I know and have interacted with far more trans people than most people, or just as a nature of me interacting with so many people, right? I meet so many people all across the board, all across the world. I have people who are trans who follow me on social media and whatever, and might be even listening to this podcast and so on, and it's like, look, I'll treat anyone with dignity. Right. I'll treat anyone with kindness. I'll treat anyone as a human being, but I'm not going to cede the ground of reality itself. Like, that's very dangerous, because if you can cede that reality, then you're on an ultra slippery slope. Yeah, anything else goes.
And Piers, I don't think, really gets that point. And that's why I'm hoping he will. But let's play the next clip in which they continue to argue about, well, why are you not for fairness and equality?
Yeah, I listen, I agree with a lot of what you say. I've talked about this a lot, and I think there are serious issues about the infringement on women's rights as people try and progress trans rights to where they want to get to, which is fairness and equality. You can't create a new unfairness, a new inequality. But I don't think it's helpful to the debate for you to say, I'm transphobic, because that means that you are, by your own admission, hateful towards the trans community. That's what it means, transphobic.
It's not a word. It's not even a real word. I think that's such an important point, is that it's not even a real word.
No. I mean, to be irrationally afraid of trans people, if you're reading it literally.
It's not a word, right? So they literally will make up words to go along. It's like, it's all just a game, man. And it's tiring. I'm really tired of just people being disingenuous and dishonest and straw manning all the time, which is what Piers has done there. She didn't come out and say, I am transphobic. He jumped on with the allegation that you are transphobic. So now you defend yourself.
But she even made the effort to define what transphobia is, which is believing that men don't have penises. And he was like, well, that's unhelpful.
It's not a word. It's not a word, but like, it's just this annoying, disingenuous tactic of, it's the have you stopped beating your wife? Right? It's that one. And now someone's like, wait, what? Like, someone's there defending themselves about not beating their wife, when it's like, when are you going to stop beating your wife? And it's like, well, it's disingenuous. It's this rhetorical tactic that is often used to put people on the back foot, and and that, to me, I think it's, number one, it's disrespectful. It's dishonest. But also, to me, it means you're not really trying to have a real conversation if you're just there throwing these labels out at people.
I think he's fallen into that problem here. We'll go for the next one, just try and bust through them, but let's go for the next one here.
Yeah, but it doesn't, though, does it? Because that person just called you transphobic. And I think you've said numerous times, even this evening, that you are pro-trans rights, whatever that means. And so if you give an inch, I feel, then we really do give everything up. And so it's just a word. It just, transphobic, what is that? I've never assaulted anyone. I've never incited violence. I don't even know what transphobia means, besides refusal to submit to this ideology. And I just won't.
I think there needs to be a better consensus between the two warring factions on this, because I have a lot of sympathy with all of what you say. I also had sympathy with the trans community who do feel that increasingly a lot of the rhetoric about them is transphobic. I don't think it really helps to debate if you say I'm transphobic, because you know that will cause a lot of anger towards them. And why play that game if you feel that they are playing a game with you? Why not be the bigger person in the debate and say, all right, how do we get to a place of genuine fairness and equality for all?
I mean, it's just, again, like, what are you doing?
It's so frustrating because we've been there. Like, what is the goal? Okay, so all these activists, even Piers himself, when he's saying we want to get to fairness and equality, what does that mean? Tell me what you would like it to look like.
Well, that's the thing. Piers can't define.
Right?
Because he's like, you shouldn't be in the bathrooms, but also, why don't you just give in and do what they say? So
yeah. So this is the thing. So if you look back at genuine civil rights movements of the past, real ones, right? You could point out very specifically and explicitly what the goals were. Look, okay, this segment of the population is currently being, their right to vote is being infringed upon. Look, these people are being enslaved. These people are being paid less for the same work. These people are not being allowed to use the same services and amenities as other people. These people are being, right? Like there was always, it's clear cut.
They can do that. They can say, well, these people are not being recognized as women, but
that's not a right.
It's not a right. Absolutely.
They're being recognized as human beings who already have the same rights and equalities that all these other real activists fought for back in the day. And there you go. You've got fairness and equality. You've got it, right? If there's a situation where somebody gets attacked based on their identity or something like that, then yeah, we can jump on this specific issue and work to sort that out, right? Because you don't have a right to assault anybody, right? Whether you agree, you disagree, you like the way they look like, you don't, whatever. You can't just see someone on the street and physically attack them or whatever. So and if there is some huge spate of that happening, then I'm not aware of it. Someone can make me aware. But we live in such an incredibly, as far as human history goes and as far as the world goes, we live in such a magnificently, incredibly tolerant society. Like I could put on lipstick and a dress and high heels and have my freaking beard and my muscles, and I could walk down a high street in the UK and probably nobody would say anything to me, let alone me be attacked or assaulted.
I mean, I put money on it.
I think I could do that on any high street in the UK. I don't think anyone would say anything.
No.
I think people would give me some odd looks. I think people would think things. I don't think anyone would say anything. I think people would mind their business. And that shows try that in most of the world. Try that. You try that in most of the world, right? Like you can't. So people are pushing for this like unicorn land, which does not exist and cannot exist, where, and you've got this situation where you've got, like you said, you're infringing upon the actual
woman's right to have a segregated
half
space.
of the population.
Yeah, that's also for men as well. Like men deserve their own places as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't actually want women in the men's changing room either, right? Is it a physical threat to me? No, but it's weird and it's uncomfortable for people. Yeah. And this has always been fine. It's never been a big issue. With these weird things like bathrooms, I mean, you can have, a gender neutral bathroom or a disabled bathroom or an everybody use bathroom if that's such some huge issue.
At my university, that's what we did. Like all the disabled bathrooms were also gender neutral.
Sure.
And it worked.
Yeah, okay. So the 3 people who this is a big issue for, like you can use that one.
You've got an unlimited amount of bathrooms
there
just
you
for
go.
you.
There you go.
But anyway, we'll have to skip over the last clip because we don't have time for it. But basically, Posie just says that she feels sorry for the clearly confused children. I don't know if we can skip over this one. But those guys in the black block who were also clearly trans, they're probably going to wake up about 15 years and realize, don't really know what I was doing with my years there. And I think she's probably correct about that assessment. But otherwise, if I don't know if we can get the last link on there, which is the only other news in regards to Piers Morgan's
Masks
show.
on Zoom calls.
The only other news on the Zoom call on the show of Piers Morgan was the fact that the bad man, as I have to call him because we can't literally mention his name without getting flagged by a bot, apparently. So the bad man actually threatened Piers Morgan to a debate as well. because I don't know if you remember the last interaction these two had.
I actually don't.
Oh, right. So the bad man went on Piers Morgan's show on Good Morning Britain to debate the fact that there's a disproportionate amount of Muslim men being arrested for certain crimes, and he held up the Quran.
Oh, yes, I did. This was years back, right?
Yeah, to say, look, I can literally quote you the passages.
boy.
I've got them memorized. And Piers Morgan's response was, take that book down, you're offending religion.
Yeah, I remember that.
So the bad man's point being, well, look, if you're truly uncensored, allow me to do the blasphemy that you didn't allow last time, and let's have the discussion. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens at least.
I doubt it.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as Carl's new video, The Moral Root of Tragedy. And if you'd like to follow Carl, you can also see him on Getter at Carl Benjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.